You said, for me, it's like Christmas every time I unwrap a brisket. Where and when did you develop your love for brisket?
When I moved down to Austin, I was down there for a bit. Up here, back in the day, brisket was, don't get me wrong, it's still very expensive to buy. But to screw up a $50, $60 piece of meat was not in the budget. So we stuck with just pork butt and ribs. If Baker's had it on sale, we bought a lot of it.
Hey there, Omaha. Welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and I will never forget my first trip to Smokin Barrel. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago. I just remember I was meeting my dad there for lunch. I get out of the car, and immediately my nose is just like assaulted with just the smell of barbecue, and my mouth just starts watering and salivating. I'm just like, oh, this is about to be a good experience.
I remember that day.
That was a great experience. Great, we're going to talk about it. That was a great experience. Every subsequent visit I've had has been a great experience, and I can't believe it's taken me this long, but I have to have the mastermind behind Smokin Barrel on the show. That is the owner right here, Wayne Dingus. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Dan.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Sorry it's taking so long.
It's not your fault. I needed to ask. So I asked. You said yes. Here we are.
Fantastic.
And we're going to be talking some great barbecue during this conversation. You are going to get hungry and want to eat this food. If you've never been to Smokin Barrel before, it is located on Discovery Drive off 132nd and Q.
Yeah, George's about a block and a half north of the Millard Airport.
Exactly. Okay, so obviously there are a lot of different styles of barbecue, and each kind of have their signatures. You are a pure Texas barbecue guy. What is it about Texas barbecue that sticks out to you and makes that your style?
Simplicity. Salt and pepper. I mean, that's what our rubs are. It's basics, no frills. Let the product stand out for itself. I mean, if you're eating beef, you should taste beef. Pork, you should taste pork. And we use nothing but oak wood. Down in Austin, I lived down there for a bit. That's all I used was post oak. I think I said oak earlier. I don't remember. But anywho, I would love to get post oak up here, but halfway up the Oklahoma state line is the indigenous cutoff line, so it gets really expensive to ship that stuff up here. So, and with a lot of things we try to use as local as possible. So we use a local guy that bring us our wood, which is awesome.
Yeah, I read in my research somewhere, I don't remember where it was, but your rub is just 50-50 salt and pepper.
That's it.
No other seasonings, no brown sugar, nothing else in there. What is it about simplicity that you think makes that king in barbecue?
Nothing gets lost. I've had places out of state that I've talked to, like, hey, what goes into your rubs? And they'll name off 20, 30 different ingredients, different spices. But you can't pick up one individual one. So all that work goes in, it gets muddled. You don't know exactly what you're having. For me, salt and pepper. When eating brisket, you should get a little saltiness, pepperiness, smokiness off the bark, and it should end with clean taste of beef. Otherwise, how else would you know what you're eating? If you overdo things. So that's why I go that way. I mean, simplistic. Let the food talk for itself, and let the smoke and fire do the work.
I found a quote from you. I had to bring this up because I love it. You said, for me, it's like Christmas every time I unwrap a brisket. Where and when did you develop your love for brisket?
When I moved down to Austin, I was down there for a bit. Up here, back in the day, brisket was, don't get me wrong, it's still very expensive to buy. But to screw up a $50, $60 piece of meat was not in the budget. So we stuck with just pork butt and ribs. If Baker's had it on sale, we bought a lot of it. Down there, I got introduced to brisket and how to do brisket. Simply. So I was like, okay, I got to try to mirror that when I come back up to Omaha. And so the gods above, everything aligned to where I lost a job. I had an opportunity. It was like kick off the cliff to do what I wanted to do. And it's relaxing.
Who taught you down in Texas? Where did you develop that love for brisket?
I went through the Culinary Institute of Omaha, or I guess it's Culinary Institute of Omaha. It's at Metro.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called these days. I went through there, and I don't do well with recipes. Mine is all by taste, trial and error. And I never really YouTube, I guess, as bad as I hate YouTube, but hey, it's great knowledge. I mean, you can pick up as long as you see something that's 5 or 6 times, it's kind of similar. That's a good path to start on. I never really learned from someone down there. Franklin, or Aaron at Franklin's, I watched some of his YouTubes, hey, this is interesting. I got into food for the science end of it. Why does something do what it does under certain circumstances? Dry heat, wet, moist heat. Why, those two different things are going to create a different product. So I decided to learn how to do it with smoke and fire. And that's in trial and error. We started off, our brisket rub did have 5 or 6 ingredients to it. Found out the best product that we could get out of it was salt and pepper. That's where I got into the simplistic end of it. That's literally all I have is a smoker. I was thinking about this the other day. It was like, how simple is it that what I do for a living, and I enjoy it? It's a piece of meat, it's fire and smoke, then a knife. That's how simple it is. But I screwed up a lot along the way.
I don't want to make it sound too simple, because you can screw up brisket pretty easily, as a lot of home smokers and restaurants can show you. And your brisket can take up to 18 hours to smoke. So, I mean, I just want to let the people know this is not as easy as you're making it sound. You are a very talented individual who has honed this craft over a long period of time. But it comes back to that simplicity that you were talking about, and why you love barbecue. It's meat, fire, knife, plate. Yeah. Feast.
Exactly. I mean, when I was in the military, we had, in fact, I was told a lot of it, the KISS method: keep it simple, stupid, or silly. However, whoever's mad at you that day is going to say it something differently. I literally just went off track. I don't remember what we were talking about.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Right. And so that's, we were talking about how easy it is. You can screw up pork butt, but I've done tens of thousands of briskets. So, I mean, to me, it's methodically over and over. Mm-hmm. I just do it because I do it, and I enjoy doing it. But, back to every time I unwrap a brisket on a cutting board, a brand new one, when I get to the end of one, it's like, well, how's this going to turn out? Because each piece of meat is different. Each animal is different, and I like to use the word craft, because you develop a skill level, a skill set. I do all mine by feel. I don't use a thermometer. I don't use a probe to test temperatures or done this with the probe, how tender it is. It's all done by feel. And that's, like you said, some of my briskets will take up to 18 hours. Just can't crank it out.
And that's interesting, because I'd never thought about this before. Blaine Hunter at Porky Butts told me about this. He was telling me about the feel method, and he's like, when restaurants give you a cook time and temperature for barbecue, that's bogus, because every piece of meat is different. Like, yes, you can say, that brisket is fattier than pork or whatever, but like, there's a specific percentage of fat that is unique in each animal.
Right.
The same as humans. Like, it's
look
kind
at
of
you. You're thinner. I'm bigger.
It's kind of a macabre way of like thinking about it, but yeah, like, if you were to cook someone super skinny like me, or someone who's a little bit larger, like an offensive lineman or something, we have different fat levels. We would cook very differently. So yeah, it has to be by feel. It's not just, okay, let's throw this on the smoker for 18 hours, set it and forget it. But you got to be able to recognize that each individual cut is its own, and it's going to react differently.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm doing 40, 50 briskets in a day, I'm not cooking one style or one way. I am literally cooking 40 or 50 individual briskets. There's nothing for me to go, okay, I'm back down in the morning. Hey, I do my 3-step method. First I slap it. If it starts to jiggle, it passes 1. I'll lift it up with my hand. If it starts to bend, I know the fibers of the muscles are starting to loosen up. That's checkpoint 2. And on the flat, the grain runs up and down the brisket. So I just take my fingers and I kind of wiggle it. And if I feel the separation, I know it's done. If I got 40 on and only one does that, dang, I got to wrap one, take it off, and I'm waiting on the rest. You know, it's not like, hey, it's 10 o'clock, everything's off. You know, that's one of the nice things. And when I ran a food truck, yeah, it kind of was that way. It's like, because I have to go. The nice thing about going into a brick and mortar allowed me more time to where I could start honing in on that craft and developing it. And that's when I started learning to use my hands.
How do you develop the feel, though? Is it just time after time? Is it watching videos online and seeing someone else do it? Like, how do you get to the point where you can feel it and you can wiggle your fingers and you can know?
A lot of repetition.
Yeah.
You know, that's not something you can learn on YouTube. You can't learn by me telling you how to do it. You know, me saying, this is what I feel for. Again, as each individual tastes are different, our feels are different. You know, back in the bar days, you know, this is a portion, is a handful. Well, my hand was bigger, so our customers got more fries because we're different. It's just getting in. I've brought people in that kind of want to learn how to do it. Hey, come on try this. Or if I got a line out the door, come back here real quick to the cutting line. This is what I'm feeling for. You know, it literally, you have to have hands on because that's what cooking is hands on. So hands on, you know, for a couple of thousand, you go, hey, I've felt this before. I had a good product turnout, right? So this is what I'm shooting for. And then it becomes muscle memory.
Gotcha.
A lot of repetition.
I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, you've been open since 2014.
Yeah.
I know that you smoked briskets before. I cannot imagine in 10 years how many you've done. And just time after time, it does just get ingrained to where you understand, oh, shoot, this one's a little under. Maybe that one was a little bit over. It's a little tough. Like, I'm sure that you can just feel that and you just know. I want to go back to 2014, though, because I think that's when your
November.
Is that? I have it in my notes. Yes, you opened the food truck in 2014.
Yep.
Back then, now we've got several places that I would say offer some pretty darn good brisket.
Oh, yeah.
That was not the case in 2014 in Omaha. Brisket was something...
Jay's Smokehouse, Mission Avenue, Mission in Bellevue.
Yes.
Blaine with Porky Butts.
Porky Butts.
They weren't around yet.
No.
The Tired Texan wasn't even around yet.
Tired Texan wasn't around.
Nobody that's around now was there.
Lazy Buffalo Barbecue. Like...
they're recent.
It was like Smokin' Jay's or something was like...
The one on 13th Street. It used to be Rocky Mountain Bighorn Barbecue. I grew up a block and a half from that.
Oh, there you go.
You know, so I used to stop on my paper route because that was a quick trip. Quick shop.
Yes.
It was a quick shop. And then it became Rocky Mountain Bighorn. They had really good barbecue. I stopped in at Smokin' Jay's. I stopped in there once right when they opened on my way home because I lived back out west. They were there. They were around shortly after, either shortly before or shortly after I started. I don't remember. But there wasn't. Heartland was still there. I don't remember a whole lot of them.
I know. And that's what's so cool is you were kind of Nebraska, or at least Omaha, our gateway to brisket. I mean, and some of those other places might have offered it. I'm not trying to say anything bad about them, but your brisket is exquisite. And that was kind of the bar. After I had your brisket, that was like the new bar that I set brisket for. What were people's reactions like when they first started having your brisket in 2014, 2015, 2016, when maybe this was, a meat that was unfamiliar to them, or they'd had it in another city but couldn't get it in Omaha, and all of a sudden it's just like, whoa. We have this?
We had one lady, again, we've always, touted that, we are Central Texas BBQ. And I've been asked a couple of times, what defines a region's barbecue? If I was to say what Nebraska barbecue is, what would you say it would be? Mulberry. It's the wood. Your seasonings, and you get in the Carolinas, you're starting to get into your vinegars and stuff like that. But a lot of it has to do with the wood. This is my opinion only.
Oh, sure.
And so on that topic, there was a lady from Texas, and she was within the first week or two we opened, and I'm scared, this is we're paying our bills now and we're unknown. and we're sitting in a 30-foot trailer in the Mega Market parking lot on Q Street, literally 2 blocks from where we're at now. And she posted a review that finally, thank God, there's real Texas brisket in Omaha, because there was some fat left on it. She goes, everyone up here cuts the fat off. You look at Kat's Deli in New York. If you ever watch them slice it, they'll boil their corned beefs, and it still has all the fat on it. They slice all the fat off. I get it. Boiled fat is horrible. And then they slice it. Well, that's kind of that tradition a lot of places up here did, was cutting the fat off. Well, when you're cutting the fat off, be it a 1/16 of an inch, a half inch, depends on how good or bad you trim your brisket, that's all your flavor. Because you'll find, like I mentioned before, how I see brisket should taste: salty, peppery, smoky, clean beef. The fat takes on more flavor and more smoke and whatever rub you use than the meat will. You will never penetrate, unless you inject it or soak brine it, you will never get that flavor more than 1/4 of an inch inside the meat.
Interesting.
Ever. Unless you inject it. So fat to me is a very important role, that it carries over the flavor. If you look at Wagyu, Wagyu is great in many aspects. I don't think it's great in brisket. And this is my opinion, because there's so much fat. You got these fat veins in the marbling going through, so you're going to get more penetration deeper into that meat because it's taking these avenues of the fat veins. And so you won't end up with that clean beef flavor, but you're going to know you ate something smoked, because the smoke flavor follows that fat all the way in. So the only way you can penetrate meat with smoke is through fat.
See,
this is my opinion, because it's through what I've done.
You're trying to act like barbecue is so simple, and it's just fire and meat. It's a science.
There is a science to it, but out of almost anything you can ever make, it is the most simplistic. You literally take it. I mean, and this, again, everything I say is my opinion, so nobody out there say, hey, this is gospel. Gospel is if you enjoy the barbecue, no matter who does it or where you're from. That's the only thing you should worry about, is if you enjoy it. But literally, you're taking a piece of meat, trimming it up. Yes, you got to have some knowledge on that, how much you want, trial and error. Salt and pepper, put it on fire. Again, I don't want to try to oversimplify it, but there's nothing complicated about it. It's like baking. It's hurry up and wait. And let's see if we do it right. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many loaves of bread I've had collapse because I did something wrong. That's complicated. Baking is a true science, and I have more respect for anyone that can bake. But yeah, I just do meat.
I just do meat.
I do meat on fire.
That should be on your T-shirts going forward.
Oh, we've got some good ones coming out.
I just do meat.
Yeah.
Ooh, you got some T-shirts?
We got some more T-shirts coming out. So
might have to get me one of those. So we've talked about how simple you keep things with the rub, with the brisket. That applies to your menu, too. I mean, you sell brisket, pork, and sausage by the pound, and then ribs, and then
turkey.
And turkey as well. Sorry, your turkey's excellent.
We have to have a healthy option on there.
Yeah, and then you have a couple sandwiches as well, but it's a very concise menu. You're not throwing out, a bunch of crazy sandwiches.
Right.
Sometimes you do burn ends on special, but that's not every week. You're not doing beef ribs all the time. You do get creative with the specials, and we'll get into those. But when it comes to your core menu, as you were opening Smokin Barrel, what made you say, we're just going to stick to these meats and just do them super well, not go off the beaten path the whole
right.
lot?
Again, we're picking up a theme here of simplicity. Mm-hmm. The more items you have on a menu, the more complicated it becomes to execute that menu and for the customers to be able to decide what they want. Like I said, I have 5 core items, and out of those 5 core items, we make a couple sandwiches that have 2 or 3 meats on it. We have people that are like, oh, you got a lot on the menu. No, I have 5 items, but if I had 20 things on my menu and, to put it out there, my wife, Carla, my hon, it's just her and I that run the place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I have a staff to where I can delegate and say, hey, I need you on pork prep. I'm going to have you on beef prep. I want you to work on this. So the more items, again, to begin with, as it is today, it's still just the two of us. I didn't want too many things because I didn't want to be overloaded, become too stressed out. How am I going to get this done? And two, the more items I have on it, my attention gets divided over more items. 20 items, I got my attention going in 20 different directions. 5 items, I'm more laser focused into what I need to do and do it to the best of my ability and not compromise any individual one. Mm-hmm. So that's literally why we kept a small menu. Fridays and Saturdays, we deviate from that a little bit. Like Dan's gonna argue me with this. We do our take on a Reuben.
I'm not gonna argue with you.
It's not a Reuben.
I can show you on my computer. You are in my Reuben rankings. I am not arguing.
I read it. No, it's we do a lot of our take and our versions of it because I am not trying to outdo anybody. As far as, hey, this place, I'm going to use Reuben's because Reuben's is a cult following.
Sure.
Where did the Reuben come about? It came from this state. It came from here. Who has the best? That's all personal preference to me and certain taste. So I do a twist on mine because mentally, to keep my brain insane, it takes any pressure off that I'm trying to compete with somebody other than myself. If I can outdo myself the next time I do it, I'm winning something. If I don't, I have something to strive for. Always constantly getting better and constantly learning. So we change it up. We've heard a lot of people, I like sauerkraut, but not all the time. We've got a lot of compliments on, hey, it's nice to see a Reuben that doesn't have sauerkraut on it. I've got an old instructor who lives in Coos Bay, Oregon. Texted me the first time I did, where's the sauerkraut, buddy? He's like, this is mine. Leave me alone. Let me do what I want to do. We do something different. We do that every other Friday. That way we stay consistent to our core menu, but it gives some people things to look forward to. If you can have whatever you want, whenever you want, and as much as you want, we become complacent. Mm-hmm. Hey, I get to go golfing next weekend with my son. I have something to look forward to. And we kind of do that with our food. We started doing bacon. It's just something. What do you want to do for a special? Bacon. Why not? This stuff's a 1/4 inch thick or thicker, 5-6 inches long, and we cure and make everything in-house. And it's caught on like wildfire. So we're doing that pretty much every Saturday now. The specials is where I get a break off from what my day-to-day routine is to step back and go, what can I do and have fun with it and make it really good?
So to list off just a couple specials you've had over the years, smoked pork belly tacos, you did a smoked brisket meatloaf, smoked Mississippi pot roast, smoked tri-tip French dip. I mean, just delicious, but also you're grabbing from a lot of different flavor profiles and backgrounds there. What are your inspiration for the specials? Is it just whatever?
What I'm hungry for.
Okay, whatever hits you in that moment, whatever you're craving?
That's the way it took me. It's odd because, again, it's my wife and myself. I own the restaurant. I work for my wife. That's just the way it is. And so I run everything by her because for me, it's like, I'll walk through a store and go, I want to make something with that. Can I do it? First words, how much does it cost? Because, again, this is a business. You do have to make something on it. I mean, there are some specials I'm like, we're going to be losing money on this, but I want to do it. I get shot down. But, and it took, I don't know, for the Reuben, it took me over a year to convince my wife to let me do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why was she against it?
We're not an Irish place. Oh. And that was her thinking mentality. Hey, we are a barbecue joint. Let's stick to that, the tradition and the heritage of it. And I'm like, but I want smoked corned beef, which is not pastrami, by the way. Mm-hmm. pastrami, in my opinion, I've argued with a lot of culinary instructors and professionals in the industry, coriander and mustard. And you smoke it a little longer to dry it out a little bit. But anywho, I digress. But, and the meatloaf is the same thing. It took me a while to convince her to let me do this. In fact, my research and development is do it and try it. Sell it to the public. And if I go, let's give it away and then let people try it. Well, I think we had 3 or 4 actual chefs in the restaurant at the time. Chef Michael Rhodes.
Oh, yeah.
I worked with him down at Doubletree downtown. Doubletree downtown. Probably one of the best technicians I've ever worked with when it comes to food. He was there. I can't remember what Cisco or U.S. Foods. He was working for one of those at the time. And he just started opening my refrigerators. He was throwing stuff in. Hey, you got some of this left over? Or, I think there were some pork belly burn ends, like a handful of them I was going to eat for lunch. He threw them in there. And that is literally how that recipe got developed.
Really? That's how the meatloaf came together?
Unscripted, unplanned collaboration with 4 or 5 chefs that we didn't know we were going to do this. It just happened to be, it's what we do. We start looking in fridges. Hey, we can do this with that. What can we take leftovers and make it something into? And that's how the meatloaf came about. And we don't run it quite as often in the summer. We do it more towards the cooler months. And a lot of my specials, other than I want to eat it, something that it has to remind me something of my childhood. Everything I do has a meaning and a story and a purpose behind it. And it's got to be comfort food. Like mom loved liver and onions. You'll never see me do it because that was not comfortable. I hate liver and onions. But, that's literally how it came about, was me trying things. And then it came to a process of, let's say you walked in. Hey, what's your special next week? What do you want? I left it up to our customer. And if it went well, it goes into a special, rotation. But yeah, that's how a lot of it came down. It was like beef ribs. Okay. Dang, they're expensive.
That's when you can't run very often.
No, it's not. When we run beef ribs, I've mentioned it's a business. We do have to make some money. And a lot of people I see on a lot of social media platforms is, oh my God, it costs this much. They're charging too much, or that's too expensive. And we've got the best people they'll jump right back in. It's like, you go do it. You try it out. See how much time it takes. Now, what's your time worth? All right. Now, take into consideration what's the utilities or the materials you need to create that, and the electricity and lighting and everything. Think of it as a business. We don't do it to make a lot of money. I mean, you're not in this industry to get rich. There are a few fortunate that happens to. We do it because we love to do it. It's a labor of love and pain. So it's gotten worse over the years. We're talking about prices of beef ribs. I remember when I could pick up a brisket for 75 cents a pound. I remember in 2020, I was paying over $10 a pound, my cost. Mm-hmm. And so there are things that, like, we're going to run. We've got tri-tip coming up on, we're going to start adding that back in because it's something that it's a fan favorite. So I don't want to push it away, but it's like, okay, let's suck it up a little bit. Let's do it. Profit's going to be a little bit lower, but it's not all about making money. Because, we end up, a lot of times we do a lot of things to help other people. Because it's like, hey, we got a roof over our head. We got a daughter who's a doctor. We got a son who's an accountant down in Texas. Got to go visit him, Miss Texas. And our son, everything's taken care of. So let's help others. And we found that with Paul and Jessica. We got more into it because of Paul and Jessica down at Block 16.
Urban, yeah. Yeah,
they, I don't know the whole backstory. One of their nieces or something like that had some kind of rare disease. So they got a lot of the chefs in Omaha to do this fundraiser. And again, Chef Rhodes, that's a good tie between them and me. And he's like, oh, hey, do you see, they're doing this. I'm like, it's a barbecue. I want to play. Not like, why didn't they ask me, but I want to play. And so we got a hold of it, and we brought down a bunch of brisket. Again, that's our key signature item that we're known for. Made an outlandish amount for this family in a very short period of time. So that's when my wife and I step back and go, how can we help? How can we help other people? And that's what happened when we had the flooding. I believe it was 2019. We went out and gave out over 2,000 pulled pork sandwiches, and we went out with pulled pork. Rotella's donated buns. The guys at Dylan Harley Davidson gave us their whole parking lot on a Sunday. And we went out there and realized I had no water. I had pork, pickles, onions, buns, and that was it. Places like McCoy Roofing, they showed up with truckloads of water and candy. And I'm like, come on, guys, candy, really? And you're literally going to see I'm going to get goosebumps because of the story. And he goes, I need you to slow down and think. All these kids just lost everything they own, all their toys. If that one piece of candy puts a smile on a child's face, then turn and look at their parents. Their worry dissipate a little bit. And I'm like, wow, seriously, I get goosebumps. And that's when one of the times that we sat back and said, it's not about us. Let our food speak for itself. Let our food generate some revenue and go out and help people. It's something we always do on the side. We don't like publicity over it. Some might say I'm contradicting myself because we're talking about it. But it's one of those, again, this is where I start rambling on about things because I enjoy it. If we don't help, from that day on, after we did that flooding deal, there was someone that came up. They asked, if we were still doing it. So we gave them a big pan of pork, a bunch of buns, water. And they posted on social media. It was a video. They took what they needed. They went to the next door, this motel, knocked on the door, and it went down and down and down. And from that day forward, we have sold out almost every day. And so we realized that if it wasn't for the community that we were fortunate enough to help when they needed it, we wouldn't be where we're at if we didn't do it.
Jeez, dude, now you're giving me goosebumps.
There's
incredible.
higher things than me.
Yeah.
That, if you're able, and we've told our kids this, if you're willing and able, not willing, if you're able and have the means to help others, don't hesitate. Do it. If someone ever comes in, hey, I need a meal. There's no questions. We've done it. We teamed up with Steve Theron, athletic director at Millard South. We live right down the road from him. Hey, here's some business cards. Yeah, especially in 2020, there's families in need here. Hand these out. There's no questions asked. We don't ask for here to go. What do you need? How much you need? And you do it. So I think that plays a bigger role in our success than our food does.
And I see that every time I come in the restaurant. Maybe not you giving away free food necessarily, but I see that you care about people. You don't see people coming through as just another wallet. You remember people's names. You call them by name. You'll, if you're cutting up brisket, you'll give somebody a sample of it something, or give them a sample of sausage and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And going back, I want to tell this story because I think it's so amazing. The first time that my dad and I came in, ribs are our favorite meat. And so we were excited to try ribs, and you didn't have ribs on the menu. I don't think they'd come off the smoky because we showed up as the place was opening.
Right.
And we were like, okay, that's fine. We got all the other meats, and we hadn't had your brisket yet, and that was just eye-opening. It was just oh. So we were totally happy. And as we were leaving, we saw some other guy order the ribs, so we were like, oh, ribs are out now. We'll have to get those next time. And you were like, no.
That's what you came in for.
Yeah. You were like, no, you're leaving here with ribs. And you gave us not just oh, here's a sample of ribs.
Here's
each
a
have
rack.
one. Yeah, you gave us a rack of ribs. And I was just like, this dude is like a meat angel or something. This is incredible. I know that hospitality is kind of built into barbecue, I feel like those two things are just intertwined. But for you and your restaurant specifically, what gives you that hospitality and that love for people?
Family. growing up, I spent summers on my grandmother's farm. We ran cattle. If the neighbors they were baling hay, needed hay put up in the barn, we were there and helped. Why? Because in a week when we do ours, they're going to be down to help us. And we try to treat everybody that comes in like family. What's the definition of family? People that get along. They don't get along. They argue. They have, I don't agree with everybody, and not everyone's going to agree with me. But we treat each other with respect. We try to talk to everybody that comes in. I mean, I might have a line out the door. You might be leaving. If for some reason something catches the corner of my eye, how was everything? Because that's what's important to us. I don't think about, money when I'm working. That's the least thing on my mind. I want you to come into our restaurant. We still have a hard time calling it a restaurant. I don't know why. We just have a hard time. Hey, you want to go we got to go to the restaurant. Let's just go down to that shop thing and start prepping. That we want to treat everyone as if our mother and our grandmother, our grandparents came in. When you walked into your grandparents' home or you've been on a trip and you go to your parents' house, you're welcomed. It's not, well, maybe it is, but maybe it's not. But, what do they do? You got food. Mm-hmm. It's an inviting thing. I mean, if you could sit down, everybody in this world, and I think it'd be better if everyone sat down and ate barbecue, we'd be a better place. But that's what we want to treat people as if they're family. You're always welcome. I don't like the term safe space. Happy place. Hey, happy going where you just came to the happy, sorry. Mm-hmm. But, we want people to come back not because of the food, but how they're treated. I mean, food's obviously an important part, but how they're treated and how they were welcomed and how they were welcomed out. Hey, have a great day. Hope you have a great weekend. We've built such rapport with a lot of our customers that, we know each other's life stories, and I'm a storyteller. I'm an open book. I've made a lot of mistakes, stuff I did in the military, drinking being one of them. That's where I picked up my great habit of excelling at. And I tell people about it, and I talk about it, because through story and personal experiences, I've had people help me through that method, And, hey, if you want to talk barbecue, let's talk barbecue. Because if you're in front of me and we're talking for 5 minutes, yeah, someone behind you might get a little hot on that. But guess what? When you're in front of me now, you have my same attention. You're not a number to me. You're someone I want to get to know. Because the more people I get to know, I start to understand them. And then I can understand tastes. That will also transfer it over to doing specials. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's the way I was raised. It was the environment in which I spent in different places. Again, city, farm, wherever. We treated everyone with respect. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to be a number in our place. You come in. Let's become family. That's all there is to it. Treat each other with respect, have fun. Argue, don't get along. Hey, you guys still have a great day. We'll see you guys next week. So, yeah, that's, That
was beautiful.
And I love it. Sorry.
You're fine.
I'm probably going to get a tear on this one because I lost my father in 2020 to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And when we did this for these floodings, again, my dad's Alzheimer's was quite advanced at the time. Well, our youngest son and him were prepping next to each other. I was like, this is cool. Well, probably about a month after my dad passed away, these three gentlemen come in. Well, we got an older guy, a guy, and the child. And it was 3 generations. And I could literally sit back and envision as if my father, myself, and our youngest son were all prepping together. I mean, I started crying. I couldn't charge them for it because they sparked something so damn deep in me. I was moved. And I was like, this is what we're about. Family. Mm-hmm. And you can sit down 3 generations. I'm serious. I'm getting a tear in my eye. That's what it's about. that's why I do what I do.
And that's always just been a part of you? It's just naturally built in?
Yeah. I don't know why. There's from the military end, the protector end of it, to my family, like I said, teaching us right and wrong. If we did it wrong, we knew instantly we did it wrong. Things were a little different when I was raised. I knew I should have taken stock out in leather belts and fly swatters. But times change, methodologies change. But for the generation which I grew up in, it molded me into who I am. Whether you believe it's right or wrong, that's how my parents knew it, right? And it got less, our kids was, you're not going to do this, you're not getting this, because that's what their generation was, I want this phone. No, you're not getting a phone. My generation, we were too damn stubborn and bullheaded. I don't get it. I don't care. I will go do something else. Well, there was no repercussions. So, but I had a great childhood. That's what molded me into who I am and what I've become, and it carries over into what we do.
All right, let's get back into meat before we both start crying.
I know, man.
There was something I wanted to make sure I gave you an opportunity to talk to people about today, because I think it's something that a lot of barbecue places face, and it's a very common frustration, and that's selling out. So your restaurant, on days when you're open, Wednesday through Saturday, you're open 11 a.m. to 2, but a lot of times
if we make it to 2.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of days, it's not until 2, because you'll sell out of meats. And I can't imagine the comments that you get, because I get them, and I see other comments from people that are very frustrated. They're like, when I got there at 1:30, they were sold out, or all they had left was
sausage or pork.
Yeah, pulled pork, and I wanted ribs and brisket. Red carpet, I'm rolling it out for you. Explain to the people right now why you're not trying to frustrate them and make them that a bad experience, but it is the reality that when you sell out, you sell out. Just explain that to them.
All right, yeah, so it's never intentional.
Of course not.
I don't want anyone to ever say, or the one I have, I don't know what I'm doing. That was a day I sold 600 pounds of pork, and I didn't have pork for this lady. We had a lot of caterings during graduation. Maybe you need to learn how to do your job. I started shaking. It got to the point where a light switch flipped, and I had to disappear for a bit. The reasoning behind this, I'm going to use salt. I believe it's salt down in Texas.
Okay.
If you ever pull up a picture of on their website or YouTube them or something, right in the middle of their restaurant area, they have this huge smoke pit. It's got logs burning underneath it. They cook their food about 95 to 96% prior.
The Salt Lick?
Salt Lick. I think it's Salt Lick.
Yes, I've been there. It's a really cool place.
And so they aren't reheating their food. Okay, so the reason they're able to stay open so long is they've always got food in production, but they use this to finish cooking it. And they can do it all day long, right? Now, I don't have that luxury, and we don't reheat. Everything is made fresh daily. I know Blaine Hunter, over at Porky Butts, they do the same thing. And when we first started, it was one of the hardest concepts for people to understand here in Omaha is that, how do you sell out? One post was, I've never heard of a restaurant locking their doors when they're sold out of food. Well, what do you want me to do? We cook as much as we possibly can. We have one big smoker. I have multiples. For the environment in which I'm in, I can only run the one smoker because we're still smoking off our original food trailer. We have a project in the works where I've got a little over a year left on this lease. We're actually getting a bigger property to where we can actually have a bar. We'll throw a couple TVs in there. We got to have it's Husker season right now, so we got to have the Husker games on. But I'm going to be able to put all 5 of my smokers to use. I just can't do it in the location I'm at now. So we we try our hardest, and there, to make as much as we can, but there's never the right number. One of the hardest things is forecasting in this industry, especially in barbecue. You can ask any barbecue, how do you figure this out? We're throwing darts, because again, we don't reheat. We have one smoker. It's full. I have no room to, even if I wanted to reheat anything. So one of the things that suffers probably the most is like our ribs. We're making 30, 40 racks a day. I've had them gone in the first 30 minutes. I mean, we did bacon 2 Saturdays ago, and it was gone in 28 minutes. And we did 300 pounds of it. How do you adjust to that? Not...
And that doesn't happen every day. You don't know if you're going to sell 40 racks in the first half hour. Sometimes it just happens.
There are days I have 10, 15 left.
Right. And then you can't just throw another, it's not throwing another, piece of chicken in the fryer or another burger on the grill or whatever. It's another however many hours to smoke those ribs. So when you're out,
sausage is the least amount of time it takes me, 45 minutes. We make it by hand, but it only takes me 45 minutes to smoke it. Mm-hmm. Now we're jumping to turkey. And it's going to take me an hour and a half to do the turkey breast. Ribs are next. 3 to 3.5 hours. Pork butt and brisket, between 12 to 18 hours. That's legitimate times. One person, well, why don't you make more? I'll be more than happy to. We'll see you tomorrow. I apologize. We make as much as we can and hope it sells. That's anyone's goal, is to hope it sells. Ask any restaurant. I'm not saying every item on our menu is a special. It's special to us, but any restaurant you look at, when they do a special, they do this many. Hey, we're going to have 80. God, back in my days when I worked for the upstream. Hey, we're going to have 90 filet specials. When it's gone, because you're making something additional to go with that. That makes it special. So it's kind of on that same line. We don't want to have leftovers. I've mentioned we've had ribs left over. What do? We will box them up, and we will find people that are in need, homeless people, whatever. We'll go hand the food out because, one, we want to keep the integrity of our foods fresh every day, but it falls back on the thing. We got to help somebody. But it is so hard to be able to nail numbers on anything. Hey, I got 40 briskets today. We're knocking on wood. We make it till 2. You can't guess, So, and I do apologize, to people. I mean, I sincerely mean that, you come in and there's something you want that we don't have. Unfortunately, there was a lot of people ahead of you that wanted it more because they came in earlier. So that's what we let people know. Hey, give us a call, before you come out. If it's after 12:30, 1 o'clock, call us. We'll let you know what we have. We don't want you to drive all the way from, let's say, North Omaha, drive 20, 30 minutes and not have what you want. Let me be honest with you. Call. I'll let you know. Hey, if you want to come in tomorrow, I'll hold some for you. That's not a problem. But yeah, it's a dilemma. I mean, there's no way to get around it. And like I said, that was one of the hardest things for people up here, was to realize. But the people that do realize it, we have more people come in because they see that. The best sign I saw down in Texas is we're open till we're not. Mm-hmm. Dude, that resonated so well with me. I was like, dude, that's perfect. That's a perfect business plan. But if you're selling out, and like I said, we make a lot of food. It's not like, hey, I'm throwing 2 briskets on. I got 3 or 4 racks of ribs and 1 pork butt. To say, hey, we sold out. You've been in there. A lot of people that come in. Yeah, we have slower days, but the majority of times we're slammed.
Yeah, by 11:30, the restaurant...
It's full.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's, hey, do you want this to go, or are you going to sit down and make friends with someone you don't know? Because we do have that one chair over there. And so that's... Again, I don't know how to explain it, But it's one of those, they were like, those that know. We've had so many people go, in fact, that happened Saturday. We saw you're open until you're sold out. That is the place I want to go. Because if you're selling out consistently, which is a goal, you're doing something right for the people in your area and the public that comes in to see you. You know, if you're making quantity. If you're not making quantity and like, hey, we sold out, good for you, bud. You're just going to piss people off. But yeah, we have a lot of people that come in because of that. You know, it's not a marketing strategy. It's me praying to God going, please hope this is enough. Like, I can't make any more. Not in the circumstances and the situation I'm in right now. I have more smokers, like I said. I just don't have any place to put them at this location. So our next location is actually going to be on more of a main road. We're tucked back into some place you would never go to look for anything other than a soccer field. And we plan on blowing it up.
Oh, I can't wait to hear more about that.
No, it's going to be fun.
So we'll keep our eyes and ears on that.
I'm excited about it. We've actually got a property that it's ours if we want it. But we're just postponing a commencement on it. And if it's still there, that March of next year, we're going to jump on it. It's at least twice the size we have now. We're keeping the same style. You know, I've asked myself, like, hey, do we want to go what a normal restaurant does? They serve their, they get their food prepped and ready behind the scenes, behind a wall. Hell no, man. All food, and this is my opinion, should be made, cooked, sliced, pulled, chopped, whatever, right in front of you. Because you know it's fresh.
Nothing to hide behind.
No.
It's right there. You can see it.
Yeah, and so our service line is going to be twice the size. That way I can have 2 cutters. We're adding in some hot wells so we can have a lot more hot sides, more options. The plan is to have a flat top behind it so we can toast our Reubens, but do southern, hospitality, not hospitality, but comfort foods, a meatloaf melt, a brisket Philly, something that we can do quick, but change things up. We've got, like I said, it's going to be...
I can tell you got big plans and you are excited about it.
It's going to be something that, unless you've been to Texas and to some of these places, you've never seen up here before. You've never seen it. And you won't see it.
You're giving me goosebumps again, man. You got to stop doing this.
No, it's just because I have a vision.
Yeah.
It's, again, passion with Southern hospitality. That's kind of our mantra, if you will. I loved it when I was in Texas. I love the places down there. And a lot of them, you see parts of them up here. But we're going to bring the experience of Central Texas to Omaha.
Fantastic.
Everyone can say, hey, we do Central Texas barbecue. You don't have unless you have the whole experience. And we're going to bring it here.
Awesome. All right.
I'm excited.
I can tell. I can very much tell. I got one last question before we get out of here.
Not a problem.
And we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but I want to drill on it a little more. So you've been open since 2014. And I think you were kind of, like I said, you were a lot of Omaha's gateway to, like, I don't know if I want to say real barbecue, but like an elevated barbecue experience, like an eye-opener.
Right.
Really since 2019, I think that's when Porky Butts opened, but we've started to kind of see a little bit of a barbecue revolution in Omaha and the surrounding area. You mentioned Jay's Smokehouse and Mission Avenue, and Lazy Buffalo just opened. Tired Texan, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but they were great when they were around.
Yes.
Do you feel like there's kind of like a barbecue movement in Omaha, or what is kind of leading to this is we're seeing more and more places that are, like we talked about, like these places will sell out. And that's a good thing. That's a sign that they're doing it right. What do you think is the contributor to that?
I can't remember if it was Blaine Hunter I told this to in a conversation. He would come in and eat. before he opened. And I was like, if we could get, maybe it was or maybe it wasn't. But anyhow, I digressed. And I've told people in conversations like, when people ask me, how do I do this? I'm an open book. I'll tell you exactly. Have 100 different students, one recipe, you have 100 different results. I don't worry about it. My thing is, through conversation, if I can get someone at home to make barbecue better for themselves at home, it's nothing but better for the barbecue industry. Because now we all have to step up our games and to constantly improve, create a more authentic, a more real heritage-style barbecue. Mm-hmm. Because that is what's driving this movement of barbecue. We have no longer become complacent. And you can see this in any avenue in the restaurant industry in Omaha. We're no longer becoming complacent. Hey, okay was good enough. Blaine came on. He is a multi-time Royal brisket champion. I take a little bit of pride in my brisket. It's what I'm known for. And I heard he was opening a spot. I'm like, oh, shit. I lost some nights of sleep knowing that Blaine was going to open a spot. I didn't know Blaine personally. I knew his reputation. But then I sat back and went, no, this is a good thing. There's no rivalry. There's no competition between us. Nothing but camaraderie. 2020, hey, how are you doing? You doing okay? How are you doing? We were checking up on it. We did the same thing with Chip and I'll remember his wife's name from Tired Texan. We all checked on each other because, again, it's a tight-knit community no matter what. But he was in a different spot in Omaha. So he brought really good barbecue to the 156th and Maple area, and we'll call that quadrant of Omaha. We had ours kind of thing going on. Not saying we're the best. We're not saying we are who we are. And we're fortunate people enjoy what we do. And then you got stuff down in Bellevue. It's what has pushed it so much is that we're not all together. It's all been spread out through the city. So now you can actually go get really good barbecue and not have to drive. Let's say, hey, I want to go to Jim's Rib Haven. I drive all the way across town. That becomes a trip. Okay, so I want to take a trip. Now it's going to become a family trip. We're all going to go together and do it. And that's, again, my day as a kid, right? But now you can go and get good barbecue. And the social media end of it has created this drive for everyone to do more, between Blaine, myself, the guys down at Jay Smokehouse, Mission, Buffalo.
Lazy Buffalo.
I was going to say Buffalo Trace, but that's completely different.
Whiskey.
Yeah.
Also great.
And they're new. I have not been down to try them. I really want to go down there. But social media and the positive and negative ends of that platform and that style of, it is what it is, media, is what's driving all of us to do better and not become complacent and not become, hey, we're just as good. We're going to be as good as a chain restaurant. We're all individuals. We all bring a new aspect to it, something that Omaha had never seen before. It's evolution, in 20 years, heck, it could be next year. It could be next month. I got a horrible memory. Lazy Buffalo, and I hope it happens for them that they do something that just turns barbecue upside down because they're the new kids. All of us are so much older than they are, but I'm assuming.
They got a smoked bologna sandwich, man.
Dude,
that is killer.
Glenn Wheeler did from Spencer's, did smoked bologna for that deal with Paul and Jessica Urban. Mm-hmm. And it's been on my back burner radar to make a smoked bologna. But, and it's up to these younger businesses to elevate, think out of the box. Because this because you've dealt with a little bit of food in your time, I'm assuming. just a little bit.
Tiny bit.
That the melting pot in which we've become has exploded. Nobody is ever satisfied with okay anymore. Tim Nichols down at the boiler room. I remember Tim when he was a wee green behind the Hurrdat, and he's become something incredible. But it's these young kids that are changing the landscape of food. And that's what we need, for barbecue to continue this and to create its identity and make Omaha more known. We're not known like a Kansas City, at Austin or anything. But the thing that everyone's got to remember is they have to stay in touch with heritage, where it all came from, understand where it came from, how it all started. Where did a barbecue competition start? It was chuck wagons, and it was all about beans. Had nothing to do with meat. The second thing that came into barbecue competitions was sauce. The last thing to ever come into a barbecue competition was meat.
Crazy.
Yeah. But understanding the heritage and where everything comes from, if you can be true to the past to elevate it for the future, we just make better barbecue.
Wayne, you are a wealth of knowledge. I would love to talk to you all day long. I feel like I could just learn life lessons. Like, we're not even talking about barbecue. We're just talking about anything.
My wife would probably pay you to keep me here.
Fair enough. Unfortunately, we're up against the clock.
Oh, yeah.
But I have absolutely loved this conversation so much. This was fascinating. And people, I'm not kidding you. Like, this barbecue is legit. And I love that you're talking about, we got to find people who are, pushing the boundaries and doing different stuff. But if you just want meats cooked simply, cooked right, Smokin Barrel is one of the best that you're going to find. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today, Wayne.
And get out and try every barbecue joint you can.
Amen.
If you like us, we're happy for it. Go try everybody.
Yes.
You have to try everybody. We go out and we eat at every place.
I love that. And you post about it on social media. I think that's fantastic.
That's something new we started.
Yeah.
Let's have fun with it.
Love it. Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.